Hello, my friends. Welcome to Michael Cole Instagram Live Jedi Wednesday. Got a just real interesting guest, Olive the Texture Jedi. She is all things texture, and looking real forward to having her on. Let me go get her as we speak. I'm hoping that you had an opportunity to watch my reel on Olive yesterday. I kind of what really got my it's over the top, and she's Mizani is one, that's kind of her brand, and then also she's part of the PCI uh, uh, PCI faculty. So I've gotten to know her a little bit that way, and her reputation precedes her. So, and this is her right here. Hi, Olive.
Good morning.
To you, my friend. Thank you very much for giving us a few minutes of your time this morning.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I was just underscoring a couple of points while I was waiting for you to my guest that I really, I like the way your mind works. I like how you kind of branded yourself as your handle is Olive the Texture, and I say I put Jedi on the back end of your handle because I just really, just kind of hanging out on your grids and watching your reels. At any rate, I want to get you talking about that. Before I do, I love your story, and I want my community to know who you are and how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, definitely. I always say it's like a chicken or the egg type of situation where I'm not quite sure if I was, hi Tori, I'm not quite sure if I was, born seated with this passion for hair or if it came from, my life experience. But as far back as I have memory, I wanted to be a hairstylist. And my experience in the world with big curly textured hair meant I got a lot of attention for it, a lot of really interesting comments that impacted the way I viewed myself and the world around me. So when I got into hair, when I finally got my license, that was about 17, 18 years ago now, I left school feeling like, wait, I still didn't learn how to work with curly hair. I knew how to relax it. I was wearing relaxer at the time, but there was still this gap, missing from the representation of texture types like mine and tighter. So I went into my career. I was at a great high-end salon that prided themselves in continuing education. But I still didn't get it there, and I was one of the only people in the salon space asking for that type of education and saying, why aren't we learning all these techniques on all types of hair? So fast forward then to the first time I went to a Mizani class. We brought Mizani into the salon, and I went to a Mizani class, and I was immediately like, I want to do what they're doing. Like if you've been to a Mizani class, you know what I'm talking about. The way that Mizani shows up, the energy that is brought into the room is absolutely unmatched. And it is not lost on me that Mizani actually means balance in Swahili. And that is very much the energy that you feel when you're in the space of the Mizani team. So I was able to join the Mizani team of artists about a year ago. Around the same time, I got my first teaching job in my career at a cosmetology school, because I truly believe that if you have a desire to see a change in the world, that you have to be ready to embody that change also. So as I was out here asking for, education on all texture types, saying why don't we start a foundation, with competency on all texture types, I said, you know what, why don't I go back and do that? So
I love it.
yeah.
Yeah. And I actually found out about you and started following you because of your presence at the PCI faculty. A couple of good friends that I listened to kind of blew in my ear about you. And then I went to your page and I went, whoa, okay, so how long's this been going on? So all of a sudden you were a big blip
Yeah.
on my radar screen. And to your point, Mizani, the consciousness, the narrative, the energy that they bring, this has been, it's been a best kept secret in the beauty industry for way too long.
Oh, absolutely.
Way too long. And you're really, I consider your work as an ever growing, expanding pocket of light. And as people get into it, they're very, very surprised by, whoa, you know, only regret I had is not, jumping in
Yeah.
sooner, right? So I'm curious as when you're doing, well, first of all, I want to talk to you about being a hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
So clients now, it looks like you have found the niche, and it really is, for all intents and purposes, all things texture. How do they usually find you through your page in some way, and then all of a sudden there's an engagement in DMing and they come in that way, or how do clients find you?
Definitely some clients find me on social media. Some clients, I took with me from my previous salon. I was there for about 9 years. And then a lot of clients are just referral, like word of mouth, because it's a curly community thing. When you are out in the world and you see somebody else with great curly hair, if you have not established that connection with a stylist yet, chances are you've actually had a lot of hair trauma,
Yes.
coming on spaces. And so when you find another person in that community and they are willing to recommend their stylist, you usually know that you can trust them, so that's definitely how I get the majority of my clientele.
Yeah, and I'm just assuming that when people, I'm talking about at the client level, hear about you, even in word of mouth, that today the go-to before you actually make the call or set up the appointment online, however that is
Check.
yeah, do a little bit of browsing online somewhere.
Yeah.
When people they call vet us out, right?
Yeah.
Do they usually, where would be the first place online that typically somebody kind of finds you?
I
Is
would
it?
say, I
Yeah.
think Instagram is the place that a lot of people go almost to look at people's portfolio,
Yes.
and even to, if we're looking at this world of texture, curls, coils, waves, I know it's like you're going to see, can I trust this person? You're literally going to see who's filling their feed. Is their feed diverse? Do they have only one look, only one texture type that they're, showing in their repertoire, if you will? And that is the cue. And I have an experience like on the client end, actually, where I was asked to be a model for a hair show that was in town. And they told me they needed textured hair models. And for me, that gives me a little zing, like, have they been working on texture, or is this trendy for them? And I went to, I think there was 5 artists. Hey Jay, I went to 5 different artists who were going to be, on the stage presenting, and not one of them had anybody on their feed that looked like me.
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah.
I mean, for me, that was my cue that was not going to be a safe,
Yeah.
environment. My curls were going to be like respected and loved and celebrated. But just for anybody watching, just know that what you're presenting in your feed
Mhm.
shows a lot about you, and it is showing the type of spaces that you are looking to curate. So be
Yeah.
mindful and intentional about that, and thinking, if a wide variety of people are looking at my Instagram, are they going to see themselves, or are they going to feel erased?
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. You in about this much time that you were chatting, you had like this big chunk of profound knowledge with a handful of golden nuggets somewhere. So I want to just unpack a couple of pieces that came up in me as you were talking about that. And now we're kind of moving into your space as an educator and Mizani. And I remember being in my first of a few Mizani, I'm going to call them conversations,
Yeah.
because I just, I was humbled that immediately, 2-3 minutes into the conversation, and it's like, whoa, I am profoundly
Yeah.
uninformed.
Yeah.
Right. And so I picked up on the consciousness. I picked up on the language. I'm writing, and even as I'm listening to you, I'm seeing some of that language come out as to like just curly hair and texture. And there's a whole range with of vocabulary, verbiage. And it's like I'm writing down because I'm realizing there really, really, really is something here that's it's not secret, but it's sacred, and it's been the consciousness has been neglected. How do we turn up? How do we turn up the dimmer switches so more people under? And it was interesting and it was fascinating. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, you've got the eyes to see. You said, I could just tell by looking at this feed that, I don't, versus, oh yeah, these people are kind of, they're in the game.
Oh
How
yeah.
do you, what are this, just 2 or 3 distinctions where either it's a red flag or a green flag?
That's a great question. I mean, the first red flag for me with Mizani is Mizani has been working on all things texture since its conception, since the 90s, where sometimes when it comes to other brands that are now entering into, thinking about texture, I wouldn't say it's a red flag because I think it's definitely necessary that we expand. But I then ask myself questions like, is this trendy? Is the motivator more business related than heart centered? You know, and really taking into consideration the communities that, as you have said, have almost been neglected within this industry for such a long time. So green flag to me would say, what voices are being represented here? Is it inclusive? Are you able to service all textures using their line? Red flags to me would be if when, just like the one that I said, if you go look at their branding, if you go look at their social media feeds, especially, and there is no emphasis anywhere on bringing an equalizer, to the amount of exposure that happens for certain texture types versus others, that's a red flag to me. It doesn't mean that I might try it out, but I'm not sure where the intention is coming from, and I'm big on intention. That's how I start every day, writing my intentions out, in a journal of how I want that day to go, what gifts I want to give, to others and the community around me. So yeah, did that answer your question?
Oh, more than you know. There were 2 things that you said that rang my bell. One, and I'm curious about it, I want to ask you the question. So is that, language
Yep.
is the fingerprints of consciousness. At least that's in my humble opinion. So as I listen to people, I can tell by the language the depth of their consciousness. So I'm picking up on, like when you said intentionality,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very clear about, my intentions. And I know that, you don't hear that just by, going to your typical class, that, there are communities
Yep.
of out there where people are really coming from that space. Curious to know, are there communities that you are a part of that? Yeah, we all come together and we, like you used the term, diverse,
Mm-hmm.
equalizing. That whole thing, where by hanging out in that community, you come out not only enlightened, informed, but there's a speak that resonates with people.
Yeah.
Do, could you like, when people ask me, okay, so I'm picking up something in your, what community? I go, oh, well, I've been part of 12-step community for 25 years.
Right.
I've been in rehab for 25 years. Or, I'm part of a mindfulness,
Yep.
this or that. And like, there's all roads kind of get us to the promised land. Are there any paths that you've been on that you go, oh yeah, this is kind of where I kind of get some of my light?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, to speak to mindfulness, I think mindfulness has absolutely what opened up and expanded, my consciousness and my awareness a lot. And for me, that lane came through having PTSD. I participated in the uprising, the largest civil rights movement that we've seen in our lifetime. And it was here in Minnesota and Minneapolis. And I left that experience with a fairly severe case of PTSD. And I entered into a DBT program to heal from that. And if anybody knows anything about DBT, it is mindfulness. It's mindfulness backed with science that tells you this is how your brain works. This is why it does that. Here's how you can apply different tools and techniques. So definitely in that community, but honestly, and I know I keep hyping it, but Mizani.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go into the Mizani space,
yeah, great. Yeah.
There, I mean, you are just absolutely filled up with such inspirational energy to go out and impact, the world around you with intention.
Yeah, that's two great answers. Mindfulness is it's safe, it's simple, it's got depth to it. But Mizani is a brand that's more than a brand. It's like no, if you go to that event, you're going to find out like in a nanosecond, this is a community that, and there's, I think you used this word a few minutes ago, there's humanity in this community. And yes, we're a brand, and yes, we're, I get the business part of it, but in addition to that, there's a light, there's a spirit, a humanity and energy. So good answer. Now, that was the other thing I wanted you to speak a little bit more about, and I'm paraphrasing you now, so if I missed something, you let me know. But when you walk into something that got all things texture, you'll go, I can, sooner or later, I can either tell this is something that's they're looking to exploit an opportunity, which is okay, and or there's a humanity part of this.
Absolutely.
And I'd like you to just talk a little bit about that distinction, because there are people, I'd be the first to say, I at first I didn't have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. I had to hang out. But when you said that 10 minutes ago, it's like, oh my God, what a great way of putting it.
Yeah. Is the question how you kind of parse those?
Yeah. How do you pick up on the humanity?
That's a great question. Let me think about that. I mean, I would say, what is the history? There's that. We can start with what is the history. And then also, for me, because I exist within that community, I exist within the curly community, I exist within that community that has been neglected, within our industry, I am picking up on, are they willing to listen to me? If I share my opinion, with them, are their ears open, or are they kind of defensive about it? If they're defensive about it, for me, that's a red flag, especially if they don't exist within the community and they're just coming in to try to implement solutions or what have you. And just really listening to the language about, one, are they celebrating texture? Are they saying all texture is great? Big hair is okay. Everything doesn't have to be defined. Love how it grows right out of your head. Are they acknowledging the place they came from? Or are they talking about how to manipulate only how to manipulate the curls, only how to make them smaller, how to make them defined, how to make them condensed and shiny? For me, those are two major distinctions between somebody who sees all textures as beautiful, normal, natural, lovable, worthy of celebrating, worthy of mastering, and people who are maybe in the space for an opportunity, trying to.
No, but wonderful answer. That to me, that was just right on the bullseye. And as you were kind of taking me on the ride, that's what I picked up, is that the intention of the person that was facilitating the conversation, the presenter, the educator.
Yeah,
I got a sense that they were doing more than teaching me about product and application. They were teaching me a language.
absolutely.
And the language went beyond technical language.
Yep.
They were teaching me about a culture.
Yep.
They were, and it's like, and I was moved by it. I was not more than fascinated, like, oh my God, like I would resonate. Like there was the knower in me said there's something to this beyond it being a brand, and that's when I, you know, Mizani, you had me at hello.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Well, I've already broken my promise to you. I said I won't take more than 15 minutes of your life, and I'm already 6 minutes over. So I want to minimize my break. But promise me you'll come back for an encore. Yeah. This was such a delightful and inspiring conversation. I have a feeling you're just getting warmed up.
You know, that's how it feels for me too. So, but, you know, I don't mind that we went over our time. This is a big topic. You know, like you said, it's more than what's at the surface, and I think as an industry, we're just starting to scratch at that surface. So, I can continue the conversation.
Okay, well, I know that we follow each other, and from time to time we DM or tag. So. Promise me that anytime something is significant going on, whether you're posting up an interesting piece of content or you're posting an announcement about, you know, a breakthrough in what you're doing, I'd love to stay kind of on your radar so that we have you back on a regular basis to keep not just the conversation going, but the consciousness.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, listen, thank you very much, my friend.
My pleasure.
Be in touch. Stay well.
All right, peace.